Hello, my name is Megan Varner. I am a health coach and also a physical therapist, and I work with those that have POTS and chronic fatigue to help them rebuild their energy so that they can figure out how to thrive again in their lives. The topic for today's video is how to have a good holiday season with POTS. The tips I'm going to be sharing are the tips that I wish someone had told me many years ago so that I did not go through so many holidays where I was either unable to participate because I was so exhausted, or I would come home and crash for days after that interaction, after that trip, wishing that I had better managed my energy throughout the particular holiday event. So, first off, why is it harder to manage your symptoms over the holidays when you have POTS or any other condition that causes fatigue and an energy drain? Well, we have changes in our routine. We have more travel, more particularly stationary positions while we travel, where we can have more blood pooling, causing more symptoms for those of us that have POTS. Our changes in our work schedule, and even our changes in our bedtime routine when we go to bed and when we get up can greatly affect us if we have any type of sensitivity of our nervous system, which is very common in those of us with POTS and other fatigue conditions. We can also struggle with having more triggers in the forms of family members that we don't typically interact with that may put our actual nervous system into more of a stressed or anxious state, which thereby can lead to feeling rather drained later on that evening or the next day or a couple of days following. So how do we manage all of this? It kind of makes the holidays sound like they're gloom and doom for those of us with POTS, but they don't have to be. You can figure out an approach that works for you. I will preface saying all of this that one of my prior videos about finding the recipe to have a good day with POTS can be very helpful when you begin to framework your day and what particular ingredients or what particular things you really need in your day to thrive. Maybe the top 3 things or so that you can remember to still incorporate all of those as the holiday season approaches. And remember, I guess this would be kind of the tip of all tips. It is not selfish to prioritize these things that you need to have a good day. It's not selfish to say that you need a rest break or that you need to have a certain amount of fluids available or the ability to sit at a gathering, to give a couple of examples. If you do not refill your own cup and do what you need to do to manage your energy levels, you're not going to have any energy to quote unquote pour out to interact with others and enjoy the holiday season. This is a big piece of learning how to advocate for yourself. I talk to clients about this all the time, and that is one major element of learning how to thrive with POTS is becoming your own self-advocate, to know what to ask for, to know when it's all right to say no and not that you can't participate, and to know a quick and short way to explain to others what you need and possibly what you're experiencing, because they're not going to know what you need or what you're experiencing if you just sit over there in the corner feeling horrible. I did that for many years, and that is one of kind of the big impediments to enjoying the holidays that got in my way back in the day. But I have learned to speak up in a kind way and share what I need and how I'm feeling so others know what's going on. The next big tip would be to learn how to regulate your nervous system's response. This is very helpful year-round if you're living with POTS, but especially around the holidays when you're going to have those changes in routines and the triggers, and even changes in temperature and the environment, changes in the positions that you're in throughout the day. It's super important to understand how to shift your nervous system out of going into that stressed fight-flight mode back into a state of regulation. It's not that we need to always be in this state of calm, rest, digest, and repair. Our bodies are actually meant to be flexible. And for those of us that have POTS, and I would say other forms of chronic illness, we can get stuck in an energy draining, more stress mode and have difficulty shifting back into this reparative mode. So finding ways to shift can be super helpful. One of my favorite ways, and I talk about this a lot, is tapping into the power of your breath. There are a lot of different breathing techniques out there, like cadence breathing or even breathing. But a big piece of the coaching that I do with clients is helping them figure out how to do resonant breathing, in which you're doing an even inhale and an exhale, and you're doing it at a rate that is specific to your body so that your physiology of all your different systems are getting back online and shifting into a more rejuvenating repair state. If you'd love to learn more about that, drop a comment below this video and I'd be happy to talk to you a bit more about how amazing learning this particular type of breathing technique is. That said, you can just take a few slow, deep breaths before you go into a triggering situation, during that situation, and then afterwards to begin to shift your nervous system out of that state of fight, flight, back to a calmer state. You can even let out a sigh at the end of it, especially maybe in the bathroom at a family member's house or in your car, or shake out a little bit of energy if you feel safe to do that. That can really help if you're feeling overwhelmed after being in a situation with other people. I am also a fan of trying to do some somatic techniques where you're actually in some way touching a part of your body, typically your head, so face, neck, arms. Some people like to do it on the lower areas of their body, but typically the upper areas are more accessible, and plus that's the areas you can see here on this video. Around the holidays, I will point out it still is important to be mindful of your hands and any contact you've been in with germs, not to be a hypochondriac, but germs and illnesses can kind of impact us rather hard if we're already dealing with some type of chronic illness. So being mindful of picking a technique that works for you. I'm a fan of doing a vagus nerve massage where you're either starting up on the sides of your head, coming back behind your ears to the bumps behind your earlobes and pulling down towards the neck on your collarbones. Just running through that a few times can be very calming and centering for you. If you're unable to do that, sitting at a holiday table or at a holiday gathering, you can also kind of tap into even just kind of giving yourself a light hug or slowly guiding your hands down your arms towards your fingertips a few times. There's some other techniques out there like EFT or tapping that you could do under the table at like a tapping point on the karate chop side of your hand that can be helpful, or massaging one of very common acupressure point right here between your thumb and your first finger, just giving some nice gentle pressure there. That can give you some relief as well. There's also a couple on your wrist that I like to teach clients that can be very effective too. So I know acupressure might seem like an odd thing to use around the holidays, but it can definitely bring you into a state of more calm and well-being when you're feeling more stressed. So other things around the holidays that might be a little bit more familiar to those of us living with POTS are: be sure to keep up with your fluids. It's still important to try to get however much sodium you have been recommended to get per day to help boost your blood volume along with fluid. Usually it's a minimum of those 2 liters, but check with your physician to make sure that you're hitting whatever targets. I've talked about this before in some other videos, but don't forget about the other electrolytes like potassium and magnesium to help balance out the fluid levels in your body. It is not all about sodium to feel your best. Food. Holiday food is different, and if you have any GI issues, which is very common in those of us with POTS, as our nervous system is very interconnected to the function of our gut, be mindful of what you eat. Yes, you can enjoy it, but one of the biggest things would be be aware of what foods are your biggest triggers. So hopefully you can reduce your exposure to those over the holidays. And this again is something that I walk clients through in a step-by-step approach using an interactive food journal, so we can begin to figure out what foods are really the ones that help them feel their best and which ones may not really agree with them that much. The timing of your meals is also super important, as the fluctuations of blood sugar. So if you wait too long to eat, or if you eat something that's very high in carbohydrates, or especially like processed sugars, your blood sugar can go up and then it can crash, and then you can feel absolutely horrible. I don't know how many times I would have a very high carb sugary meal around the holidays, have a piece of pie and a cup of hot cocoa, and then wonder why I felt absolutely horrible the rest of the day. It's also important to consider the effects of blood pooling. I have another video that I can link below this on some tips to help with blood pooling when you're standing or when you're sitting. Compression can be very helpful for that, and there's a couple different approaches to that out there. But be aware that this is a good time of year to consider wearing those thigh-high compression stockings if you're going to be doing a lot of standing or sitting to help manage your POTS symptoms. Also, something super helpful with pooling is to still get some movement in. And depending upon where you are on your POTS journey, movement or this is where exercise falls under, can look very different for each one of us. If you have a certain exercise regimen that you stick to, try your best to incorporate some amount of it throughout the holidays and not throw it out the window, because deconditioning can happen and symptoms can kind of crop their head if we're not continuing to train our nervous system how to respond to activity, how to respond to being upright and active, and continuing to keep our very important muscle, our heart, conditioned so that it can get stronger and pump that blood more effectively throughout our body so it doesn't pump as quickly. And then last but not least, realize that your rest is still super important. So you really should still have time to wind down in the evening. If you're at holiday gatherings late into the night, this may affect what your typical bedtime routine is. So try to stick to whatever wind down routine that you have, even if it's in an abbreviated fashion. I'm a huge fan of doing some meditation and breath work before I go to bed, and then going through the typical putting your PJs on, brushing your teeth, and doing something like listening to an audiobook or reading or something like that. I hope these tips were helpful. Please, I'd love to hear what your favorite one is and how you approach the holidays based upon your past few holidays living with POTS. And if you would like more personalized guidance over the holidays on how to manage your symptoms and thrive with POTS and not end up crashing on the sofa exhausted, I still have room for a couple more clients for the end of the year. Reach out to me at megan.varner@guidetoresilience.com if you're interested. I'd love to talk to you.